I'm going to tell everyone about, first of all, our next, the 1 o'clock hour. The 1 o'clock hour is going to be presented by Rabbi Mayor Freedman, and I'm going to give you a little bit more about him in just a minute. But first of all, want to remind everyone that we are here. When you came onto the website, you could either click on the play button, and the play button would have you on live stream. But if you click on the Zoom link, that means you're an active participant. And I'm sure that our rabbis would like the active participants to be active. So if you could, please be active. You can speak up, you can talk, you can criticize, you can send clap emojis or down fingers. I don't think there'll be any of those, but you could do any of those that you want. But be live and be active, and it makes the whole class better. And the rabbis certainly like it, because otherwise, sometimes our rabbis feel like they're just up there tap dancing for 45 to 50 minutes, and it gets a little bit hard. So you can help the rabbi. You don't know what a mitzvah is. When you say, Rabbi, I have a question, and the rabbi goes, great, I can breathe for a minute. So it's wonderful if you can help out. Let him, while you're talking, he may grab his drink and take a little sip of water or something. So anything you can do, help out and to participate. So I don't know what our latest number is, but I did hear that earlier we went over $25,000, which is super duper. Yeah, Debbie's giving me the thumbs up sign on that. And that's a really, really great thing, especially because this program was designed before COVID came along. COVID came along, everything got turned upside down. We lost all our attention. Originally, we had decided that right after Pesach, we were supposed to start this campaign to make this a success. And of course, right after Pesach, everyone's minds were somewhere else. And it was only about 2 weeks ago that we finally decided, this is such a good idea, it needs to happen. So we're not going to let it go. We're really going to make it happen. And, it could have used some more time, and maybe would have been even bigger and better. But certainly from the presentation perspective and all the Torah that has been learned, it really couldn't have been better. So maybe the word could have gotten out to more people. I want you to know that we have had participants from, I saw on the map, Spain. And now I just found out that we have had a participant from Murmansk, Siberia. Murmansk, Siberia, okay? I tell you the truth, not really Murmansk, a little town outside of Murmansk, Siberia, okay? Murmansk, Siberia has one Jew in it, and that Jew was informed, he happens to be a friend of a congregant who told him about this wonderful thing, and due to the wonders of our internet, so in Murmansk, Siberia, they're watching this presentation, coming to you, the best that Atlanta has to offer in Torah teaching, with the best of the rabbis. You just heard from Rabbi Starr. Last night we heard from Rabbi Ilan Feldman. We've heard from Rabbi Hershey Minkowitz. We heard from Rabbi Kashgarman, Rabbi Zellman, Rabbi Meir Cohn at Torah Day School, Rabbi Foxbrunner. Tonight we've got Rabbi New online, and we even have some homegrowns. We had Harold Schroeder last night and David Weissman tonight. So we're really looking forward to them. So it's a beautiful program. It's getting all over the place. So it's a win-win-win. You win by learning Torah. You win by watching so that the Torah presenters present, and you're enabling that to happen. And of course, you win by supporting us financially, which we thank you tremendously for. Right now, I want to introduce Rabbi Meir Freedman. So Rabbi Meir Freedman, there's only one thing wrong with Rabbi Meir Freedman, and that's the way he spells his last name. It's spelled Freedman, and that's not the right way, but okay. Other than that, there's nothing wrong with Rabbi Meir Freedman. He's great. And I'll tell you one other thing. Aside from the fact that Rabbi Meir Freedman is the rabbi of Congregation Anshe Sfard, located over in Morningside and Highland, Rabbi Meir Freedman is also very active for the Atlanta Scholars Kollel on campus at Emory. and Georgia State, and also Georgia UGA. Which one? UGA. And right now, Rabbi Meir Freedman is spearheading a project which is saving lives. And that is, there have been blood drives that have taken place in Atlanta. I know there was one last week at Congregation Beth Jacob. There's going to be one next week right here at Ariel. Two next week at Congregation Ariel. These are really important. They're important for two reasons. Number one, all the blood banks are low on blood. So it's a vital resource that is needed throughout the medical community right now because of COVID. People haven't been donating. So A, just low on blood. B, they have found out that blood plasma from people who have tested positive for COVID is been found to be effective in saving lives, healing people who have COVID. So if you would like to donate blood, then please come and do so next week. And on top of that, it might be found out that you have the antibodies from having had COVID. And there are probably a lot of us actually that have had it that we don't know about. You can find out, great opportunity to find out. If you know you've had it, you'd be a great donor. If you don't, you want to find out, come and donate. And all of that was really organized by Rabbi Meir Freedman. It is somewhat complex. I know how complex it is to organize a 48-hour Tourathon. From what I saw with the blood plasma drive, it's even more complex and involving state agencies and the blood, the donors, and the Red Cross and all this stuff. So anyway, Yasher Koach to Rabbi Freedman for pulling all that together. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to get hold of Rabbi Freedman, where I find here he is. The first thing I'm going to do, Rabbi Freedman, is I'm going to make you a co-host. And now that you are a co-host, you've got that dashboard in front of you. You can see how many participants are on there. You can also mute people or whatever. You can, in addition, do the share screen if you'd like to put something up on your screen. So that's one thing for Rabbi Freedman. And the other thing is, I'm going to turn the screen over to him. Let's see there he goes. And my last word about Rabbi Freedman is that he is one of the members of the Atlanta Scholars Kollel, and I'm proud to be sit in the Beis Medrash with him every morning. At least we used to sit in the Beis Medrash with each other every morning, like about 2 months ago. We haven't sat in the same room together for at least 2 months, but we're looking forward to getting back to doing that very soon. And I'm very proud to call Rabbi Freedman a colleague. And when I put the spotlight on you, it is yours.
Thank you, Rabbi Freedman. First of all, you mentioned thank you for mentioning the blood drive coming up. One of the big benefits of the blood drive is you just get to see people. You have a valid excuse to be out and see people they haven't seen in 2 months. So if anyone wants to come out to that, you can sign up at gaplasma.org, as they're able to sign up to donate blood. So thank you very much for mentioning that. Thank you, Rabbi, for inviting me to come present over here. It's an honor and a zechus to be able to do so. And one more introduction is this thing in my ear is connected to my phone. It's not because I'm not focusing on what's going on. It's because I'm calling in. I find that calling in is often clearer than using the computer audio. So I'm actually talking to you through my Bluetooth. It's not that I have a distraction sitting on my ear as we're learning over here. Am I coming through clearly? Could everyone hear me? Okay, great. So today's topic, the title on the flyer was Hillel on the Convert. And that is true. We're going to be talking about Hillel on the Convert. But I'm going to share my screen with you now. And you'll see that the full topic is really, let's share the right one over here. I think it's over here. Yeah, okay. The real topic is hate, love, and the 10 Commandments, based off of the story of Hillel and the convert. So it's a pretty famous story. I'm assuming most of you have heard it. We're going to go through it from the beginning, and definitely feel free, as Rabbi Freedman mentioned, to pipe up with questions. I'm looking at a different screen, so if you like raise your hand in the chat box and I don't notice it, then just unmute yourself and call out, because I'm now looking at the screen which has the sources on it, not at the screen which has for the participants. So definitely, I'll try paying attention to that. But if it doesn't, if I'll try paying attention to people raising their hand, etc. But if I don't notice you, then just unmute yourself and call out.
Can I interrupt you for a second?
So let's get started over here. So the first source we have is from the Gemara from Talmud Bavli in the Masechtas Shabbos, and I came on the end of last class, and Rabbi Freedman mentioned how there was some rabbis actually called on people. So Jay, Zoom popped up in front of my section over there. I don't know if you have to run off to a patient in a minute, but do you mind reading for us source number 1 from Masechtas Shabbos? Let me unmute you for that. I think you have to do it on your end. Yep, there you go.
There was another incident involving a certain Gentile who came before Hillel and said to him, "Convert me on condition that you will teach me the entire Torah while I stand on one foot." This was, I'm assuming this is after he went to see Shammai first.
That's right. Yep.
Hillel converted him and said to him, "That which is hateful to you, do not do to your fellow man. De'alach sanai lahavrach lo ta'aved." This is the entire Torah, and the rest is just an elaboration of the one central point. Now go and learn it.
So thank you, Jay. And like they said, what did he say?
Fellow man.
Great question. What about, this seems to be similar to that concept of loving your fellow man as yourself. That's a fantastic question. Is it the same? Do you think it's the same? Does it seem like the same thing to you?
This is almost like the negative, and that's the positive.
I mean, that's like a passive. That's an active. Love your fellow man. This negative. Refrain from harming them or doing something to them which you yourself don't like. It's like a flip side of the same coin. Great. So who's your fellow? Any ideas? It says that which you do not to your fellow. Who is this fellow we are talking about? So Jay, it seems like you just took it for granted that it means your fellow man. Any other possibilities who this fellow might be?
Just maybe a Baal Shuva, a gear.
I mean, a specific type, or maybe another convert. He's talking to a convert, maybe another convert. We definitely know there's a mitzvah in the Torah, a specific mitzvah of loving the convert. And great. Okay, so let's take a look at the next source. Source number 2. Source number 2 is from Rashi on that Gemara over there. And Rashi gives us 2 explanations of who this who this fellow might be. And interestingly, the first one is not a fellow man. So Corey, I'm just picking on you because you have your screen on. Do you mind, do you mind reading for us source number 2? I got to unmute, sorry. I'm going to mute you again, Jay, and I'm going to unmute Corey.
There you go.
Okay, yeah.
Rashi says, "Do not do that which is hateful to your fellow. Do not forsake your fellow or your father's fellow." This refers to the Holy One, the Holy Blessed One. "Do not disobey his commandments, for it is hateful unto you when a friend disobeys yours. Put it another way, your fellow," literally, in the cases of thievery, kidnapping, sexual impropriety, and the majority of the commandments.
Great. So based off of this, who's the fellow at this point? The this Rashi is not, if you're used to Rashi language, a Gemara language, then it's easy to pick up what Rashi is talking about. But if you're not, then it's hard to understand. Rashi is really saying two different possibilities for who the fellow is. So,
I would assume it's anyone in your acquaintance, or is it?
so that's definitely what Rashi's saying over here in the second half. I'm going to highlight that. That's not highlighting so well, but to put it another way, your fellow literally in the case of thievery means your fellow literally. Like you just said, Corinne, like Jay said originally, fellow human beings, your fellow man.
Yeah.
But the first half Rashi really is saying a different fellow. And Rashi is saying, do not forsake your fellow. Who is this fellow? He's quoting from Proverbs, which calls God fellow, calls God chavrich. And so says Rashi that when what Hillel was telling the convert, the first possibility in Rashi is that do not forsake God. I'm sorry, that which is hateful to you, do not do to God. Make sure we're treating God properly. The second explanation, says Rashi, is your fellow means human beings. That's the second half over here. So Rashi is coming with two possibilities of who this fellow is. Either it means God or it means human beings. Okay, we're going to go to source number 3 over here, and this is something that Jay had mentioned. And source number 3 says, "V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha." You shall love your fellow as yourself. A very famous, I think is probably the most famous verse in the entire Torah. There's another, just a point of order, Rabbi Freedman or Debbie, am I supposed to be admitting people or is somebody else admitting people? Shall we take care of that? Debbie or Rabbi Freedman?
Sorry.
I'm taking care of it.
I'll do it. I'm so sorry. I stepped away for 1 second.
Okay.
I will definitely.
No,
get
no
on
problem.
that.
I wasn't sure if that was part of my responsibilities or not. That's fine.
It's
I don't
usually
mind doing
Rabbi
it.
or myself.
You can certainly let them in unless you don't want to let them in.
Okay, fine. All right. Great. Okay. Thank you. All right. So number 3. So V'ahavta kamocha is I think the most famous verse in the Torah. And like Jay said earlier, this seems to be the flip side of what Hillel told the convert: what's hateful to you, don't do to your fellow. Here you have, you shall love your friend as yourself. Now, especially if we understand fellow in Hillel's statement to mean fellow human beings, so it definitely seems to be the flip side of V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Another very famous line we have, a famous source we have in source number 4 over here. And this is from the, Rashi brings down on the pasuk in Leviticus, Rashi says it. It's quoted, Rashi quotes, I believe, as a Sifra. It's also in the Yerushalmi Talmud. There are 2 versions of the Talmud. There's the most commonly learned one is the Babylonian Talmud. There's another Talmud in Israel, which is called the Jerusalem Talmud. And generally, we study the Babylonian one, and that's our main source of halacha comes from the Babylonian one. But we will take what the Israeli one, what the Yerushalmi one says into account as well. So source number 4 is from the Jerusalem Talmud, and it says the following: a very famous line: "You shall love your friend as yourself." Rabbi Akiva says this is a great principle of the Torah. Amar Rabbi Akiva. Ze klal gadol b'Torah. There's a great principle of the Torah. So, just some questions and things to think about. Like you said, is this the same as what Hillel said? Is it merely the same thing, just 2 separate sides of the coin? Or are Hillel and this verse saying separate things? One other thing that brings up to mind, is something that we mentioned, is if this is not the same as Hillel, then what is Hillel's source? If it is the same as Hillel, why would Hillel flip it? Why should he flip it? Let him just quote to the convert, this is entire Torah. So what's hateful to you, don't do to your fellow man. And if it is, I'm sorry, let him say to the convert, this is entire Torah. Love your friend as yourself, your fellow as yourself. And if it isn't the same thing, then what's Hillel's source for it? Where did Hillel get that from? That this is what the Torah is about. who says so? Like, where did Hillel make that up? Is somebody had, where did he get that idea from? So we're going to go now, before we get to source number 5, I want you to think to yourself for a minute. We're gonna now be talking about the 10 Commandments. So far, we got the title is hate, love, and 10 Commandments. We're not gonna get to 10 Commandments, but before we do so, I want you to think to yourself for a minute. If you're sitting on a plane, I don't see any Joes here. Okay, fine. So you're sitting on a plane next to Joe, and Joe, I was actually flying once
Hi,
from
Debbie, how are you?
to New York from here in Atlanta.
Let me ask
And I was sitting
are
next
you
to a family
Gabrielle?
that they live in some rural town in the airport, and this is like for most of the families, this is the first time leaving that town. There are 2 families going to New York together, and they were all excited going to big cities. So I go in Baltimore, I was in New York plenty of times, and it was so interesting to me to find people that have like never left their small town, and they had never left a small town in Georgia. So you're sitting next to this guy who never left a small town, never met a Jewish person in their lives, have heard about the Jews. Maybe they've heard about the Jews, heard rumors, true things, whatever it is, and they turn to you and they say, "Wow, you're Jewish. Can you tell me what Judaism is about?" And you start going through your head thinking, what is Judaism about? And you have to pick 1 or 2 or 3 things that you tell them, this is what epitomizes Judaism, or this is what the focus of Judaism is. So think for a minute, what 2 or 3 things would you tell them? What would those 2 or 3 things be? And if anyone has enough courage to pipe up, feel free to unmute yourself, or share in the chat. Let me open the chat over here. Text the chat. Feel free to unmute yourself or to share in the chat what you might answer that person. Kind of what is Judaism about? Tell me the 2 or 3 main things of Judaism. What Judaism is about? What would you share with that person? So, right, Adrian wrote action-based. Judaism into action, having belief, especially growing up in a Christian world, in a Christian country where they talk about belief all the time. Definitely a major aspect of Judaism is doing, not just believing. Great. Rabbi Horowitz, looks like that's Rabbi Horowitz over there, wrote love and learn. I don't know if you mean love learning or loving and learning. Definitely loving. We see from Rabbi Akiva is a major part of the Torah, and learning. Like we say every morning in davening that learning Torah is Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam. That Talmud Torah is learning Torah is is equal to all of the mitzvahs. Definitely, learning Torah is a major part of being Jewish. And Adrian, another thing, always learning, right? And striving to be a better person. Growth, definitely growth. Growth through chesed and loving your neighbor. Also, these are major facets of Judaism. So let's look at the 10 Commandments now, and let's see what the 10 Commandments are about. I'm assuming most people are familiar with some of them, if not all of them. I'll just read through them. Source number 5, the 10 Commandments. Read this Shavuos morning read this Shavuos morning when we're in shul. Number 1, I am the Lord your God. Took you out of Egypt, etc. Number 2, do not have any other gods before me. No idolatry, no other gods, even not idolatry. Even not an actual idol, or don't have any other gods at all. Number 3, do not take my name in vain. The way the Gemara understands this means do not take, the Gemara says, the tradition the Gemara has, that means primarily don't say unnecessary oaths. Like don't use the name of God to take an oath to swear that this is a watch. Obviously it's a watch. If something's obvious, you don't swear on the name of God about that. Number 4, honor the Shabbos and keep it holy. Number 5, honor your father and your mother. Number 6, do not murder. Number 7, do not commit adultery. Number 8, do not steal. Number 9, do not bear false witness against your fellow. And number 10, do not covet. Don't be jealous of what other people have. So they're all great ideas. Clearly, I think some of them we would all agree are essential to Judaism. But we don't have on there learning Torah. 1 to 10 is not God saying learn Torah. Make sure you learn Torah every day. Even though we know that learning Torah is Keneged Kulam is equal to all other mitzvahs on some level. On there is not. Doesn't say anywhere in there. Be kind to other people. Do chesed is not on there. There are some things. Don't murder. Don't commit adultery. Obviously, there's an antithesis of chesed. But doing chesed, doing kindness is not on there. Loving other people, according to what Rabbi Kiva said, that love your friend as yourself maybe should be one of these 10 if that's such a major part of the Torah. When I think about Judaism, the things that come to mind for me are kosher. Keeping kosher is definitely a major part of Judaism. Shabbos, so we do have Shabbos on there. Shabbos is considered a major part of Judaism, of course, and we do have Shabbos in the Ten Commandments. The laws of family purity, going to mikvah is obviously a major part. That's not on here. Simple things, wearing yarmulke. I definitely growing up always wearing yarmulke. Wearing yarmulke is always something to distinguish us as Jews. That's not on here. So, what are these 10 Commandments? Where do they come from? So I'm going to share with you an idea which I heard from a man named David Foreman. He has a website called alephabeta.com or .org, and it is he has great. He has like these videos up there, which are these Torah lectures, animated videos, and very interesting ideas, and usually very action based. So I'll mention action based. His ideas usually come out with some very relevant message and lesson to take away from it. So this idea I'm about to share with you is something I heard from a class of his. And he says the following. He says, in order to try to understand any document, any list of things, we have to a tip to successfully pull that off is to look at the structure and to look at the title. If we would read a document, a medical document, without knowing the structure, where the paragraphs begin, where they end, without grammar, where the periods, where a question mark, is this meant to be a question or a statement, etc., we could totally misinterpret the document. So clearly, structure is an important thing of any document, to understand what the document is saying, what the goal of the document is. And in addition, to know the title of the document is also super important. If we don't have a title, the title gives us a synopsis of what the document is about. Right here, the title of my class is Hate, Love, and the 10 Commandments. So we're going to be discussing hate and love and the 10 Commandments. We know what it's about. So if we could find a title, so to speak, for the 10 Commandments, we then would give us insight into why are these 10 Commandments so central to what Judaism is about? Or are they central? Maybe these aren't list of central things. Maybe it's something else. So again, if we could find a title, we'll know exactly why Hashem chose these 10 Commandments to tell us at Har Sinai and to write on the luchos, on the tablets. So in order to understand the structure, let's go to the next. We're gonna skip source number 6 and 7. I'll just tell you what they're talking about. Won't read them inside. Number 6 talks about how they used to have the 10 Commandments as part of the prayer service, and then eventually they stopped it because heretics would say, "Oh, the Jews only know the only thing you have to keep is the 10 Commandments. That's all you have to keep. The 10 Commandments are 10 of 630 mitzvahs." So people were saying, because we were saying the 10 Commandments on a regular basis, people were starting to say, "Oh, we don't, the only commandments, only mitzvahs that count are those 10. No other mitzvahs make any difference." And therefore, said the rabbis, forget it. We're not saying it anymore in davening. We're going to take it out of davening because it's becoming it's playing too big of a role more than it should. So, one other thing I want to mention, there is, I believe Rashi says actually, that, I think Rashi mentioned in the pasuk that all 630 mitzvahs do somehow fit into these 10, and he mentions, another commentary mentions that there are 613 letters in the 10 Commandments, so alluding to somehow these are representative of 10 somehow. But if we try to focus back to Rabbi Freedman's way of thinking about it, at least, let's take a look at the structure. So source number 8 over here, we have the structure of the 10 Commandments. As we know, they came when Moshe finally brought them down to us. We were able to take a look at them. God told them to us straight. Moshe came down to them with 2 tablets. Each of them had 5. Now, truth is, the Gemara says that it could be that they each had all 10. Now, we generally think of them as 5 on the first one, 5 on the second one. The Gemara does state an opinion that all 10 were on the first one and all 10 were on the second one. As a matter of fact, the Gemara states an opinion that all 10 were on, I think the next opinion of the Gemara was that all 10 were on the front of each one and all 10 were on the back of each one. And then the Gemara states another opinion, which says that all 10 were on each, or the 4 sides of each of the tablets. So it could be all 10 were repeated a total of 8 times, written down, engraved in the tablets 8 times. But definitely the way that we think about it and what seems to be generally accepted is that the first tablet had 5 on the first one, and the second tablet had 5. The first 5 and the second 5. So we break down 2 tablets. The tablet number 1 is, I am Lord your God. Don't have any God before me. Don't take me in vain. Honor the Shabbos and keep it holy, and honor your father and mother. Tablet number 1. Tablet number 2. We have the next 5. Don't murder. Don't commit adultery. Don't steal. Don't bear false witness. Don't covet. So, does anybody see? And feel free to unmute yourself, turn a video. I can unmute you, or to write it in the comments. Anybody see any sort of patterns going on here now that we're thinking about it as 2 different sections? 5 and 5, as was the 10 straight. I'm going to just see from there, Adrian asked this, I don't know if Adrian is asking or saying that's why Christians focus on just 10 commandments. Possibly, I don't know. That definitely makes sense. And we definitely meet people who think that the 10 commandments are what living a good life is about, and they don't know that there are 613 in total. But anyone have any ideas or see any patterns between the first 5 and the second 5? Some parents can say that the first 5 have that the second 5 don't, or vice versa. So Adrian mentions over there, thanks Adrian, being a great class participant. Adrian mentions over there that writes that the left side seems to be focused internally. The first side is like an internal thing. And the right side, 6 to 10, seems to be focused outwardly on society and your community. Definitely 1, 2, 3, and 4 don't have to do with anybody else. It's a decision I make for myself. No one else is involved. Regardless of other people, it's a decision that I don't need other people to do. Number 6 through 10 are clearly things that do have to do with the society around the society that we live in. The problem is that with just going with that, what you're saying, Adrian, is that number 5 is honor your father and mother. That seems to be some sort of society or other based as well. It does include other human beings in there. So how would that fit in? Do we have a way of fitting in number 5 to fit with the first 4, to keep that on that tablet? So what Rabbi Freedman suggests, so I'll first share with you an answer I heard just through Adrian wrote, except that fathers are obligated to teach Torah to their children, is still more of internal life, meaning very good. The first 4 are taught and continued on, and we have through honor your father and mother. They're what continues this tradition, this Torah, this Judaism, this Jewish life onto the next generations and keeps the first 4 relevant. Great. So the way, a classic way that people split it up is we have with our 2 types of mitzvahs. Our mitzvahs being Adam Lamakom, between man and God, and mitzvahs being Adam Lachavero, between man and fellow man. And so, if you look at the first half, the first 5, they seem to be talking about mostly between man and God. The second half are between man and fellow man, clearly. Except, again, this funny one over here, number 5. What's number 5 doing here? So I heard an answer from a rabbi named Rabbi Yaakov Marcus, who he is a teacher in Neve, a seminary in Israel for girls, and many of the students, the majority of the students at Neve, I don't know the majority, but many of the students are students who did not come from an observant background and grew in their observance and wanted to start becoming more observant, learning about Judaism, and they would take a year off of school or a few months off, however long it is, and go to the seminary in Israel, called Neve, and to just be able to spend time fully focused on learning about Judaism. And he says that whenever he had, I don't know if there's any psychologists or psychiatrists on call over here, I know everybody does, He said that whenever he had a student who was trying to grow in the Judaism, trying to get closer to God, but they had some family dysfunction growing up, or there was some issue with the relationship between them and their parents, he said he saw time after time after time, the idea of relating to God was something they had a hard time grappling with and dealing with. And what he would tell them before they would come, they would be learning, of course, but they'd want to grow in their relationship with God. And he would tell them, I'm going to help you do that. However, you have to be meeting with a therapist or a counselor or someone to help you deal with the issues that you have with your parents. Because again, not too bad if somebody that does not get along with their parents can't have a relationship with God at all. I know many people that do, but clearly having a good relationship with our parents help us have a relationship with God. So sorry about the background noise. I don't know if you're hearing that or not. I'm not going to turn it off because the time to turn it off will probably make it good. It'll be finishing. Yeah, that's my phone ringing in the background. So it's my computer ringing. So I can actually do this. Okay, you can still hear me, right? Oh, you hear me? Okay, great. So that's my computer. I'm on my phone. So it's not even my phone ringing. It's my computer ringing as I'm talking on the phone. Okay, and a whole new level of interruptions in the class. So Rabbi Marcus would send to his these students along with their growth in Judaism. He would do his best to ensure they're growing in their relationships with their parents as well, because he said anyone honoring our father and mother, this number 5 is a major key, a major player in helping us develop 1 through 4. Honoring, understanding, having a relationship with the Lord our God, it's exclusively God, no one else, etc. Honoring your father and mother plays a major role in that. And that's why he wants to suggest that honor your father and mother is on the side of our relationship with God, because he says that's an integral part from his experience. So that's one explanation why it's on the side. Explanation number 2, I'm sorry, that's a more classical understanding. What Rabbi Freedman wants to suggest is that number 1 is not between us and God necessarily, but it's between us and our creators. It's between us and a vertical relationship. I'm Mayor Freedman, and these are people that were involved in creating me. They're like a vertical relationship with them. They're a step above me that I have to treat in certain ways. And number 6 to 10 is people who are horizontal on my level. That's the difference between the first one and the second one. And that way, God, our parents end up along with God, because our parents are a vertical relationship as opposed to a parallel relationship. So that's one part of the structure. If you look at the structure, we have first half is us and our creators, our vertical relationship. Second half is us and the people we deal with on our horizontal level. Now let's talk about the title. So they're called the 10 Commandments, but 10 Commandments doesn't tell us what they are. Rabbi Freedman wants to suggest, and I find it very compelling, that we discussed earlier, where did Hillel get his statement from that the whole Torah is about, just going back up there, is about that which is hateful to you, do not do to your fellow. This is what the whole Torah is about. Where you got to see him from? You know where he got it from? The 10 Commandments. The 10 Commandments are things that which are hateful to you, don't do to your fellow. Either, and going with Rashi's explanation, that can mean don't do to your fellow, meaning God, and don't do to your fellow human beings, people who are on your same level, who are with you. So it fits right in that when Rashi is giving these 2 possibilities over here of who this fellow is, he wasn't saying it's either this one or that one. He's giving both. Because Hillel, at least theoretically, possibly is coming off 10 Commandments, both are included in there. Fellow means God, and fellow means your fellow human beings. What's hateful to you, don't do to God or your fellow human beings. The 2 halves of the 10 Commandments, 1 per tablet. So if that's true, that then gives us a title. This is what the Torah, this is the focus of the Torah, the meaning behind these. Back down to over here. So another wrinkle thrown into this, looking at the structure, tying it back into the structure now, is that we've been looking at it 1 through 5, verse 6 through 10. If we understand that that the first half is me and my creators, second half is me and my people on my level, maybe we could suggest that this one that's going across also have some sort of similarity. Number 1 and number 6 are similar things in regards to my creator or in regards to my friend, my human friend. Number 2 would be number 2 and number 7 are the equivalent of me and my creator versus me and my friend. Another wrinkle we could throw into to understand what is going on here beneath the surface of these 10 commandments. So let's explore what these are about. It's easier to look on the human side because we understand murder, adultery, steal. Those are easier things. And then we'll try both angles, exploring what they mean on the human side, and then pulling them back into that creator. So why does somebody murder? Some murders because there's somebody in this world that they can't stand, that they can't live with. That's why you murder somebody, right? Hopefully that's not why any of us murder anybody. Hopefully no one's murdering. That's why somebody might murder someone. This person I cannot live with, he's alive. Somehow there infringes upon my existence. I'm going to murder them and remove them from this world. Well, God, we can't remove from the world. I can't kill God, but I could ignore him. I could pretend he's not there. So says God, number one commandment is acknowledge my existence, who I am. That's the human form, that's the God form from us. How do we not murder God? By acknowledging God's existence. So number 1, number 6 are acknowledge the other person's right to exist and that they do exist. That's number 1. That's how number 1, number 6 fit in together. Let's now go to number 2 and number 7. Do not commit adultery is number 7. Me and my spouse have a sacred relationship. By bringing out somebody else into that relationship, I am violating the relationship I have with my spouse. And I think it's pretty easy to apply that back to number 2 with us and God. We have a unique relationship with God, and bringing in somebody else into the relationship is violating our relationship with God. It's me and God. There's no other gods around over here. It's me and God. By saying there's another God would be violating that relationship. Let's look at number 8. Do not steal. So the way that the Gemara says that do not steal is really referring to kidnapping. Don't kidnap. And kidnapping is when we steal somebody, we are taking from them, so to speak. We're violating their most precious possession, their own body. We often think of ourselves as my body is me, but from the very fact that I say my body means my body isn't me. My body is something that I own, something that I have, but it's not me, because if it was me, I wouldn't say my body. I would just say me. So clearly my body is some possession that I have, and by kidnapping someone's body, I'm taking from them the most precious possession, their own body. So number 8 is do not steal. Don't take someone's body. Don't violate the most precious possessions. If you now apply that to number 3 on the left side of the page, do not take my name in vain. So I mentioned when I was going through the 10 commandments that the way the Gemara explains this, do not take my name in vain, says the Gemara, don't make an oath unnecessarily. Don't use the name of God to swear that this is a spoon. If this is a spoon, I'm going to see this as a spoon. If I would say, I'm not saying this, if I would say, swear in the name of God, and I use God's name and use proper terminology to make the take upon this, to swear that this is a spoon, I have violated number 3 of taking God's name in vain. That was an unnecessary oath. We make oaths for specific reasons. In court, we might make an oath if we have to, convince the court of something of a position that we're taking. We don't have witnesses. The court may tell us take an oath about it. We'll take on an oath if we want to grow. We might take on an oath if a person is able to feel that they're getting too involved in materialism and they want to say, I'm going to stop. I'm not going to have any more cake for whatever reason, not just as a diet, but to grow spiritually. It's not something that we usually do. But a person is able to take an oath to not have any cake, and if they eat cake, they transgress their oath. But says the Gemara, what number 2 is talking about is taking an oath, which is unnecessary, swearing that this is a spoon when you don't have to. Adrian just asked if it's only for oaths. What about saying God's name in vain in general? Just saying the name of Hashem when we don't have to. That is correct halacha, that we don't say God's name. We say Hashem instead of God's name when we're not praying or reading the Torah. But I don't think it would be a violation of the Ten Commandments. It would be, it's halachically wrong. I'm not sure what it would fall under. I don't think we'd say transgressing the Ten Commandments by doing that. So if number 8 for a human being on a human level is don't steal a person's body, well, if we're not trying to apply it to God, God doesn't have a body to steal. So what is God's most precious possession? God's most precious possession is his name. When we want to refer to Hashem, we want to refer to God, and we don't want to say God's name, like we just were saying, I've been saying Hashem the whole time. Hashem literally means the name. God's name is the equivalent of a human body for God, so to speak. And so if we're using God's name, in a cavalier manner, taking oaths which are necessary, we are stealing, so to speak, God's name. That is the God equivalent of stealing a human body, of kidnapping somebody. So again, so far, do not murder. The first line, the first column was don't murder, don't deny someone's right to exist. Number 2 and number 7, don't deny don't mess up the exclusivity of your relationship with them. Don't violate the sacredness of the relationship. Number 3, number 8 is do not violate a person by taking their most precious possession, their body, or in God's name, or in God's case, God's name. That brings us to number 9. Do not bear false witness against your fellow. This one, Adrian wrote, kidnapping is another way of kidnapping is to kidnap someone by denying their use of the proper name. Right, great. It's like identity theft. Fantastic. Number 9, don't bear false witness against your fellow, is pretty clear, cut and dry. Don't lie about other people. Make sure you're saying about other people is the truth. And if we apply it back to Shabbos, it's pretty clear. Shabbos, when we keep Shabbos, we're testifying to God creating the world. Keeping Shabbos is a testimony. We are bearing witness by keeping Shabbos. As a matter of fact, there's a prayer that we say Shabbos night in davening and Friday night services called Vayechulu. Talking about how it's a chapter from the Torah, and it talks about how Hashem ceased to work and started and Shabbos, and then created Shabbos, created rest. So when we say that prayer, you're only supposed to say it if you have another person with you, because saying that prayer is considered giving testimony, and testimony in Judaism usually requires 2 people. So if you don't have someone to say it with, you don't say that prayer. Keeping Shabbos is giving testimony. And by not keeping Shabbos, I'm saying that's not true. I'm denying what God did. So another way to violate you is not just by violating your most precious possession of stealing something from you. It's denying what you have done. Denying what somebody did is also a violation of who they are. So if I'm either saying someone did something they didn't do, or I'm saying they didn't do something they did do, I'm bringing false witness against them, that's violating them. And with God, by not keeping Shabbos properly, we are denying what God did in regards to the creation of the world. And so that's how number 4 and number 9 fit together. Let's go to number 5 and number 10. Any questions about those so far? Those are pretty clear cut, pretty straightforward. So let's go to 5 and 10. 5 and 10 is a bit more complicated. Yes, Jay. Oh, you're just saying hello. Okay, got it. I thought you were raising your hand. Okay. So 5 and 10, let's look at number 10 first. Do not covet. Don't be jealous. It seems to be like a funny type of commandment to have on here. It's something which takes place in my mind, is like an attitude that I have. But if we look at the way that the commentaries discuss this jealousness, it's not just like, wishing I had a nicer car. It's not just, I ran out of coffee and I wish I had coffee. Hold on a second. My Bluetooth just died. Can you still hear me? Can everyone hear me still? Okay, great. I had to put you in speaker on my cell phone for the Bluetooth just died. So this jealousness is almost becomes an obsession, a jealous obsession with what someone else has or what other people have. To a point where Maimonides, who says we only get punished for actions, he says it seems in Maimonides when he talks about this Ten Commandment, he's talking about an obsessive form of jealousy. It's something which takes over my life, so to speak, a little bit. And what does that mean when, no Bob's over here, right? Okay, what does it mean if, I want Bob's color? Bob, if you get a car, I want his color. Oh, Bob's house, I didn't know Bob's, I want Bob's house. Oh, I see Bob's job, has a great job, I want his job, etc. What am I saying? I think I want to be Bob. It's disregarding who I am myself. It's disregarding myself and my own life. It's saying I want to be Bob. So, if we apply that now to honor your father and mother, ultimately, a basic dissatisfaction with who I am will express itself in the relationship I have with my parents, because they're the ones that created me. If I don't appreciate who I am, there's no way I could appreciate my father and mother properly. So that's what number 10 and number 5 have to do with each other, is disregarding who I am as an individual. So now let's put that back into practice. Here's a chart which I just took out, just to go through it again. Number 1 is the top line is recognizing the existence of the other party. The second line is don't betray the sacred relationship that you have with the other party. The third concept, don't destroy the relationship by taking the other person's things, their most precious belongings. The fourth one is tell the truth about the other one, don't violate the other person by denying what they have said or done. And the fifth one is recognize who you yourself are and the value that you yourself have. Recognize the value you yourself have. So it's almost like those concentric circles, which I think you just split this out already. Don't violate or don't self-violate. Okay. So if you have to give one word to these concepts, you have to say all these concepts in one word, what word would you stick in there? Any ideas? One value that all these 5 things share. So I think the word that I would use is, I lost you. Stuck.
I'd say love. Ahava.
Hold on, I just got knocked out. I'm back in. Could you hear me still? Okay, I'm not sure what happened over there. Oh, and the screen is not. I have to share the screen with you again over there.
I was saying ahava, love.
Love. Great. Is this showing properly? Are you seeing this screen to the left over here? Which screen are you seeing? 1 second, sorry. Here you go, this is what I want to show you, okay. Jay is saying love, loving other people. That's definitely a great term. I would think something a little different. Let me just open up the chat, make sure that no one wrote anything which I missed. I would suggest, okay, there you go. So agents have respect. So I think I would agree with Adrian. Cordial consideration for others. I think I would go with respect. These are ways that I respect you by not violating things that you have. Love to be more active, love caring, more involved, if you so to speak. Love to be more of an active thing. There's more of a passive thing, respecting boundaries. Respect is the word I would use. And says, going tying back into Hillel, tying back into Hillel, love is like Rabbi said, love is an important part of Judaism. It's a great rule of the Torah. But I can't have love without first having respect. If I don't respect you, I can't properly love you. when love is used between a couple, we see on the news, in current pop culture, people love each other. And, that love flips on its head 2 days later, and doing lots of things. If there's no respect, real love can't be built. At least on a horizontal relationship, at least, or on a vertical relationship. So that's what the whole thing. This is what the Torah is about. This is what the Ten Commandments are about. Respect. It's so essential that it's such an essential thing. Before anything else in the Torah, I have to make sure that I respect God. I have to make sure I respect each other before I co-op on love God and love each other. Adrian's just commenting over here. I forgot which Rabbi said this, but he asked the students if they loved him. The students answered, of course. So then he asked the students if they knew what hurt him, and they didn't. And he said, how can you love me if you don't know what hurts me? Great. Knowing boundaries, fantastic, Adrian. If we don't understand the boundaries of a person, how to respect a person's boundaries, how can we really say that we love them? The first step is respect. So he ties it into the I. But Freedman takes it another step, and he goes into in a husband-wife relationship, at least. Is when I got married, many of the Sheva brachos that our Torah's people are saying, or when you get married, you have to remove the I. The I is becoming we. The I is becoming we. So you have to squash the I, so to speak. And I think that's not an accurate statement. I think the we is the joining of the two I's. But if we squash the I, if we end up denying who we are as an individual or ourselves as an individual, again, that doesn't allow for true love between a couple. So the first thing is respect. After we get to love. It's already once before. I'm supposed to be ending in a few minutes. So any questions? I'll share with you one more thought to tie us together about Rabbi Akiva. Any thoughts and any questions about it before we go on? Okay. So we now move to love. Says Rabbi Akiva, love is a great rule. Is a great rule in the Torah. I'm not going to read source number 11, 12, or 13. Number 12, I'll just speak it out to you. If anyone else can copy this afterwards, send me an email or text if I just send it to you. Number 11 is the story of Rabbi Akiva's students. He had 24,000 students who did not treat each other properly, and they died between Pesach and Shavuos. So the 24,000 students died during this time period. And the punishment for not treating each other properly. And it's a crazy thing to think about it. Rabbi Akiva is the one that said love is a great rule in the Torah. And his own students had this problem that they weren't respecting each other properly. They couldn't love each other properly because their respect wasn't there. They weren't nagu kavod zeh b'zeh. They didn't honor each other properly. They didn't respect each other properly. That love they are missing. And it's not coincidental that the time period which they all perished was during this time period of between Pesach and Shavuos. Because something which is essential to realize as you come up to Shavuos is that the entire acceptance of the Torah is predicated upon caring for each other. Just to explain this briefly, if you look at source number 12, it's how the Jews camped by Mount Sinai. And it says, they camped by Mount Sinai. If you look over here, I'm going to highlight. And it says they journeyed, number 2 on my mouth is, they journeyed from Freedman, arrived at the wilderness of Sinai, and they camped in the wilderness, and he, Israel, encamped there opposite the mountain. So all the commentators jump on, who's the he? He, Israel, encamped there, so they encamped there. So Rashi says, it's a very famous question, Rashi says, in a very famous answer, that he encamped there like one person with one heart. The Torah is calling all the Jews, as they approach Mount Sinai, he, because they are one being. That's how close they felt to each other. That's how close they were to each other. All the other encampments, there was bickering, there was fighting. This encampment approaching Mount Sinai was done with total unity. And this unity is essential for accepting the Torah, and this unity is essential for keeping the Torah. As we've been discussing, there are 613 mitzvahs in the Torah. I never in my life did 613 separate mitzvahs, and I never will. And that's because I'm not a Kohen. One of the mitzvahs, Hashem tells to Moshe, goes somewhere, I don't know what of Satan and his son, bless the Jewish people. I'm not one of Aaron's sons. I'm not a Kohen, so I don't have that mitzvah of blessing Jewish people. Many of the mitzvahs have to do with temple service. I'm not a Kohen, so I can't do temple service. Some mitzvahs are for men. Some mitzvahs are for ladies. Some mitzvahs are for, there's no one person that could do all 613 mitzvahs. How do we do all 613 mitzvahs? By having unity. When we have unity amongst each other, the mitzvahs that you do count for me, the mitzvahs that I do count for you. So this unity is a prerequisite for accepting the Torah, and it's a prerequisite for fulfilling the Torah. Because without the unity, I'm not able to keep all 613 mitzvahs. But that unity allows me to take part of your mitzvahs, and that allows you to take part of my mitzvahs. So this unity is essential for coming up for Shavuos. So again, just to recap what we discussed. Number one is the first step is respect. We got to make sure we're respecting each other, respecting the boundaries that we have for each other. Something I didn't mention is that number 5 of those respects is respecting yourself. A way to develop respect for yourself is learning to respect other people. If I respect that every single person, regardless of who they are, has boundaries that I can't cross, well, not all the people are really great people. But if I recognize that everyone has the boundaries, and even if I don't consider myself so great, I have these boundaries too. So therefore, I would respect myself more. I would hopefully overcome number 5 as well. Number 1, respect. Number 2 is love. Once we have proper respect, we can then go to the next level, which is what we're striving for, of love for each other. And this love, this love is so essential to get to for Shavuos, again, for the acceptance of the Torah. As you saw, it was a prerequisite for getting to the Torah, and also for keeping the Torah, for doing this unity, this love, this achdus is so essential to keeping the Torah. And my time is up. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Rabbi, for this honor. Again, my email address is mayor@freedman.org. Freedman spelled properly with 2 E's. And Mayor is M-A-Y-E-R. I'll just chat it here so everyone has it. If you have any questions or would like a copy of the source sheet, feel free to send me an email. And one last plug for the blood drive. GAPlasma.org, sign up. We have 2 days going on at Ariel next week, Monday and Tuesday. It's really saving lives. Thank you, everyone. Have a very happy Shavuot Chag Sameach.
Thank you. Thank you, Rabbi Freedman. Let me get back to get a screen here. And let me take back the screens from Rabbi Freedman. Thank you. It was a wonderful class. And I want to say that I have really been impressed with the quality. I mean, I know the rabbis all can make quality presentations, but everyone has taken time to prepare themselves and to be ready to go and queued up in line. And it's been really, really great. In just a minute, I'm going to introduce the next hour's speaker, which is Rabbi Yossi Lerman. But before I get to Rabbi Lerman, I am going to give some shout out and some thank yous and some appreciations to a whole bunch of people.
Great share.
Thank you, Rabbi Freedman.